Delta Airlines is about to do something no major American airline has ever done before. They're bringing basic economy to the front of the plane, to business class and first class, to the premium cabins where passengers pay thousands of dollars for lie-flat seats. This is the story of how Delta became the first U.S. carrier to unbundle its premium cabins, why travel experts warn this will raise prices for anyone who wants the full experience, and what it means for you the next time you book a flight. Anyone who flies Delta needs to understand what's happening here, and honestly, anyone who flies at all should pay attention. When Delta succeeds with this, and early signs suggest they will, United and American will follow. The entire way Americans buy premium tickets is about to change. Make sure to buckle up because it really shocked me, and I think you will too by the end of the video. On January 13, 2026, during Delta's fourth quarter earnings call, President Glenn Hauenstein confirmed what frequent flyers had been dreading. The airline is rolling out a three-tier fare structure across every cabin class, and that includes Delta One International Business Class with lie-flat seats and Domestic First Class. The three tiers are Basic, Classic, and Extra. Anyone who's flown economy in the last decade recognizes this model. Delta pioneered Basic Economy back in the mid-2010s, and it changed everything about how airlines sell coach tickets. You get a cheaper fare, but you lose seat selection. You can't change your flight, and sometimes you can't even use the overhead bin. That playbook worked so well in coach that Delta is now applying it to premium cabins. A basic business class ticket will get you the same physical lie-flat seat, the same hard product as everyone else in the cabin, but many of the perks that have always come standard with business class will disappear. Hauenstein put it this way during the earnings call. His exact words were that if you were offered a $500 ticket, there was no reason for you to ever want to pay more because it was fully loaded. Now that seat is $500, but you can buy it for $450 if you're willing to get the seat assignment at 48 hours, if you're willing to have it non-refundable. That example suggests roughly a 10% discount for the basic tier compared to the standard classic fare. And that's where things get complicated, because travel experts are raising alarms about what this really means for pricing. Ben Schlappig runs 1 Mile at a Time, one of the most respected travel blogs in the industry, and he put the concern bluntly. He wrote that airlines market unbundling is offering a better value option to more travelers, but in reality, the cheapest current fares would often become the new basic fares with fewer perks included than now. Most consumers, he concluded, wouldn't come out ahead. Gary Leff, who runs View from the Wing, was even more direct about the situation. Nothing screams premium airline, he wrote, more than basic business. His prediction was that basic business will cost the same as current business at best, and current business will get a price hike. Kyle Potter, the editor of Thrifty Traveler, captured the core criticism in one sentence. Unbundled fares aren't really cheaper, he wrote. They merely take the place of a standard fare, which go up in price. The worry is straightforward. What you pay for business class today becomes the new basic price tomorrow, except now you're getting less for the same money. Anyone who wants what they used to get has to pay more for the classic or extra tier. Delta hasn't released specific pricing for basic business class yet, so certainty is impossible. But the pattern from basic economy and from international airlines that already offer this kind of fare suggests the critics might be right. The numbers tell a remarkable story about why Delta is making this move. Something happened in 2025 that Delta didn't expect for another 2 years. Premium ticket revenue officially overtook main cabin revenue. The original projection had that milestone landing in 2027, but it arrived early. Nearly $5.7 billion flowed in from premium tickets during the fourth quarter of 2025 alone, a 9% increase, while main cabin revenue dropped by 7%. The full year brought Delta record revenue of $58.3 billion, and Premium Plus loyalty revenue represented 60% of that total. American Express remuneration alone delivered $8.2 billion, an 11% jump from the previous year. The front of the plane is where Delta makes most of its money now. Applying the revenue optimization strategies that worked so well in coach to premium cabins makes perfect business sense from the airline's perspective. Hauenstein called this a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, and from a pure business perspective, the logic is hard to dispute. Segmenting premium customers the same way Delta segmented economy customers means extracting more revenue from every seat. I am actually sad to see that happening. The question that remains is whether passengers will accept it. Years of planning went into this moment, and the timeline reveals how carefully Delta built toward premium unbundling. July 2024 brought the first public acknowledgement when JP Morgan analyst Jamie Baker asked Hauenstein directly about unbundling premium cabins during the second quarter earnings call. That put the concept on the official record for the first time, November 2024 made it official at Delta's Investor Day. The company announced plans for what they called further segmentation, aligning value to price across all cabin products. May 2025 brought the announcement of complete fare rebranding, with Main, Basic, Classic, and Extra going into effect on October 1st, July 2025 delivered confirmation during an earnings call. Houndstein said the segmentation done in the main cabin is kind of the template they're going to bring to all premium cabins over time. And then came the proof of concept. November 6, 2025 marked the launch of Comfort Basic, an unbundled version of Delta Comfort Plus, that extra legroom economy cabin sitting between regular economy and first class. No major U.S. airline had ever offered an unbundled premium fare before that date. The first Comfort Basic flights departed on November 19, 2025, operating in what Delta described as very select domestic markets. And here's what matters most: the test worked. During the January 2026 earnings call, Houndstein revealed that Comfort Basic was producing results actually slightly above internal projections. Validation in hand, Delta is moving forward with the full rollout. Joe Esposito, Delta's executive vice president transitioning to chief commercial officer, explained during that same call that they'd been incredibly thoughtful about not going too fast, making sure the approach is measured. Comfort Basic testing continues, he said, with expansion planned for the rest of the year. Houndstein confirmed the timeline. The three-tier structure should roll out pretty much throughout 2026 across all cabin products. One point needs to be clear here. Delta has not released the official fare rules for basic business class. What follows is based on three sources: what's included in Comfort Basic, what Delta executives have said publicly, and how international airlines that already offer unbundled business class fares structure their products. Based on those sources, basic business class should include the identical lie-flat seat, meaning the same physical product as everyone else in the cabin. Onboard meal and beverage service will remain. Dedicated cabin service from flight attendants stays. Some level of SkyMiles earning, likely at a reduced rate, will still exist. What basic business class will likely exclude tells a different story. Advanced seat selection disappears, with assignments coming just 24 to 48 hours before departure. Tickets become non-refundable with change fees reimposed. Medallion qualification dollars, the currency determining elite status, will likely be reduced or eliminated entirely. Elite status qualification from the flight faces limits. Lounge access gets complicated, with Sky Club possibly included but the new Delta One lounges potentially off limits. Complimentary upgrades vanish. Priority check-in, priority security, and priority boarding may all become unavailable. Picture what that means in practice. Someone pays several $1,000s for a lie-flat seat to Europe, but doesn't know where they're sitting until 48 hours before the flight. Changing the ticket if something comes up becomes impossible without fees. Elite status doesn't build. The lounge might be off limits. Some travelers will accept those terms happily, and others will be furious about every single one. The concept isn't actually new on a global scale. Several international airlines have operated this way for years, and their approach offers a preview of what's coming to America. Emirates introduced special fares back in 2019. Qatar Airways built a four-tier system with light, classic, comfort, and elite options. Air France-KLM structured their fares as light, classic, and flex. Etihad Airways, Finnair, and British Airways have all implemented their own versions. British Airways now charges for seat selection even in business class. Travel experts keep pointing to Finnair as the cautionary tale. Ben Schlappig described Finnair's unbundled business class as absolutely brutal. On Europe to Asia routes, the basic fare runs only about 10% cheaper than the full-service option. That 10% savings costs passengers seat selection, lounge access, checked bags, priority services, and the ability to make changes. Flying business class while receiving treatment reserved for the cheapest economy ticket. That's the Finnair experience. Delta's joint venture partnerships with Air France-KLM, Virgin Atlantic, and Korean Air become relevant here. Several of those partners already charge for seat selection in business class. The infrastructure for this kind of segmentation already exists throughout Delta's international network. Whether this benefits or harms travelers depends entirely on who answers the question and how they fly. Tom Fitzgerald, an airlines analyst at TD Cowen, gave the points guy the positive case. Offering good, better, best options within business class can succeed for Delta without alienating customers, he argued. Travelers who might only want one or two features of the business class product can gain access at lower price points. Some travelers agree with that view completely. One commenter on a travel blog wrote that they would like cheaper business class tickets because they just want a more spacious, more comfortable, less cramped seat. They rarely use the lounge or eat the food even when it's included. For someone matching that profile, a leisure traveler who just wants a lie flat seat to sleep on a red-eye and doesn't care about elite status or lounge access, basic business class could genuinely work out well. Access to a lie flat seat that might have been unaffordable before becomes possible. The case against rests on economics. Gary Leff pointed out that when the marginal cost of a service approaches zero, like letting someone sit in a lounge or use the overhead bin, bundling is typically the profit-maximizing strategy. Unbundling makes sense when services cost real money to provide, but many business-class perks cost airlines almost nothing. When perks are essentially free to provide, unbundling them serves one purpose according to critics: raising prices on the full-service product while creating the appearance of consumer choice. Sarah Silbert, managing editor at Points Path, explained to Travel Pulse that making perks that were once a given to the business class experience into add-ons with extra costs could drive up the overall cost of travel, which is definitely a net harm to consumers. I definitely got harmed by that, and I am sure plenty of other people are. Consumer reaction has landed all over the map. The Points guy quoted frequent travelers who rejected the concept entirely. Elizabeth Lovell, identified as a frequent traveler, said people don't fly business to get a basic experience. Nicole LeBlanc, a travel advisor, called it ridiculous to charge anything extra to someone paying $5,000 to $10,000 or more for a flight. The Flyer Talk community, those hardcore frequent flyers who obsess over every detail of airline programs, started calling this Delta One Half. The name captures their skepticism about whether this remains a full business class product. One group could face particular impact from these changes, and most of them haven't realized it yet: business travelers flying for work. A Flyer Talk user identified the dynamic precisely. Corporate travel departments never stop looking for ways to cut costs. Basic economy showed up, and most corporate travel policies refused to allow it because the restrictions hit too hard, and employees would revolt over not bringing a carry-on bag. Basic business class changes that calculation entirely. The lie flat seat remains. The meal stays. From a company's perspective, the employee receives the same physical experience. Paying extra for lounge access and seat selection starts looking unnecessary. The user wrote that this will really cause some hurt to business travelers because many corporates will accept the unbundled business class discount, whereas most corporates have been hesitant to do the same for economy out of fear of revolt from travelers. Running through the implications reveals the stakes. A company books an employee in basic business. The seat arrives, but status doesn't accumulate. The MQDs that move someone toward medallion status never post. The personal benefits of frequent travel, the miles, the status, the lounge access on personal trips, all of that served as unspoken compensation for life on the road. All of it could vanish. One longtime Delta Diamond Medallion member wrote on Flyer Talk that 2025 was the year they ditched Delta loyalty and became a free agent. Delta's pricing, in their view, had gotten insane. That dynamic playing out at scale would fundamentally reshape the relationship between airlines and their most frequent flyers. Delta operates in a competitive market, and that's where things get particularly interesting. United Airlines has been watching every move. During their July 2025 earnings call, Chief Commercial Officer Andrew Nocella made comments that revealed United's thinking. "Not everybody wants the full experience," he said, "and some people want other experiences." The Points guy reported that United is carefully studying Delta's approach. Matthew Clint, who runs Live and Let's Fly, wrote that Delta is the industry bellwether and other carriers will try to mimic its success. His advice was to enjoy free seat assignments and other perks of business class while they last. American Airlines hasn't commented publicly on following Delta's lead, but airline industry history runs consistent. When one carrier figures out how to extract more revenue, the others follow within months. Delta's basic business class working, and Comfort Basic results suggest it will, means United and American announcements of similar programs within the next year or two become likely. What's happening at Delta matters even for people who never fly Delta. The whole industry is watching. Premium unbundling becoming the new standard would spread to every American carrier. Transparency about the uncertainties matters here, because this story continues developing. January 25, 2026 brings us to a point where basic business class remains unavailable for booking. Only Comfort Basic has launched. Delta hasn't announced specific launch dates for First Class Basic or Delta One Basic. Specific routes for the rollout remain unknown. Whether international flights come before or after domestic remains unclear. Precise fare restrictions, including whether Sky Club access will be included or excluded, haven't been revealed. How elite status benefits interact with basic fares raises questions nobody can answer yet. Diamond medallions getting complimentary upgrades on a basic fare. That scenario has no confirmed outcome. An interesting wild card enters the picture with Glenn Hauenstein's departure. The Delta president who built this entire strategy over 20 years retires in February 2020. Joe Esposito takes over as chief commercial officer. Whether that transition affects implementation pace or details remains to be seen. I hope not. Delta also confirmed testing AI-powered dynamic pricing with an Israeli company called Fetcher. Hauenstein described it as a super analyst working 24/7 that could eventually enable real-time personalized pricing. That system rolling out alongside the three-tier structure would make pricing even more complex and harder to predict. Bringing this back to practical terms reveals what actions make sense with this information. Anyone planning to book business class on Delta in 2026 should watch carefully what fare they're buying. The three-tier structure creates multiple prices for what looks like the same product. Reading fare rules carefully becomes essential. Understanding what comes with the ticket and what doesn't determines the actual value. Building toward Delta medallion status requires watching how basic fares affect qualification. Reduced or zero MQDs from basic fares could demand more strategic thinking about which tickets to book. Traveling for work means starting to think now about how company travel policies might shift. Corporate travel departments defaulting to basic fares would erode the personal benefits of business travel considerably. Valuing airline loyalty requires reconsidering whether Delta remains the right airline. Some frequent flyers have already started shopping for the best deal on every trip rather than staying loyal to one carrier. Flying United or American doesn't mean safety from these changes. What's happening at Delta today will very likely arrive at other airlines soon. Delta Airlines is fundamentally changing what buying a business class ticket means in America. The three-tier structure with basic, classic, and extra tiers is coming to every cabin, including the premium cabins where passengers pay thousands of dollars for lie-flat seats. Travel experts largely agree on the outcome. Prices will rise for anyone who wants the full business class experience that used to come standard. The cheapest fare becomes the new basic, and what was previously included moves into a more expensive tier. Delta calls this choice. Critics call it a price increase wearing the costume of segmentation. The significance of this moment isn't in dispute. Delta becomes the first major U.S. airline to unbundle its premium cabins. Success, which Comfort Basic results suggest is likely, will bring United and American along. The era of all-inclusive business class fares in America is ending. Whether that turns out good or bad depends on flying habits. Some travelers will genuinely value access to a cheaper lie-flat seat. Others will watch standard perks become paid add-ons and feel like the industry has taken another step toward squeezing every dollar from passengers. In my opinion, I don't think that's fair. What's certain is that the airline industry is watching. What happens at Delta in 2026 will shape how Americans buy business class tickets for years to come. I'm curious what you think about all of this, whether you'd book basic business class to save money or pay more to keep the perks you've always had. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something new today, and I'll see you in the next one.